When it comes to Brad Holmes, he is always on the lookout for great football players. And this player that we're about to talk about today is a great football player that I think he might want to take a shot on in the NFL draft. Stay tuned, everybody.
We used to be a team no one respected. We used to be a team no one feared. That was then. This is now.
First victory of the year on the line. Goff's got it. Back, looks, throws, end zone. Yes! Caught!
You know who we are.
10, 5, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
And you know where to find us. We won't be far. We'll be on your front porch waiting for you. We are the New Era Lions, and
we are driven by Detroit.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and with that, we're diving in. But before we get into it, again, I just want to say to all my loyal fans and subscribers, welcome on back. Absolutely means the world to me that you guys keep coming back to the show. And to those that are new to the show, I also want to give you a thank you as well. I hope you'll enjoy the content, but even more so, I hope to gain you as subscribers if I've earned and deserved your subscription. And with that being said, to everybody, I just hope you're having a great day. God bless, and let's get into the show here. So, let's understand something here, folks. When it comes to Brad Holmes and it comes to the Detroit Lions, there are a couple of things that the Lions are specifically very well known for, and particularly Brad Holmes are well known for when it comes to the offseason, particularly the NFL draft. If there's one thing the NFL and Detroit Lions fans have learned from Brad Holmes, the first thing that we can know is that we have to expect the unexpected. Brad Holmes has had a tenacity in the past to do things that we don't necessarily expect him to do, but 9 times out of 10, it usually works out to the benefit of the team. Case in point, nobody thought the Lions were going to draft Jahmyr Gibbs or Jack Campbell last year, but both of those guys did very, very well for the team. That's what I'm talking about right there. Now, that's one thing that a lot of people know about Brad Holmes. The second thing that Brad Holmes is known for is being able to find great talent no matter where it is in the draft. It can be in the very high end of the draft. It can be in the low end of the draft. And if you take a look at Brad Holmes' track record, he has found talent at virtually every single point within the draft. Hence the reason why the Lions draft classes the last three years have been absolute just genius master strokes of work by Brad Holmes. And you just take a look at all the guys that we've drafted, the evidence speaks for itself. Now, when we take a look at the NFL draft that's coming up this year, that's going to be held in Detroit, this year, the Lions are in a position to be drafting while adding strength to an already strong team, an already strong unit. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Just because we have a strong team does not mean that this team does not have areas where it could stand to improve. And there are obvious reasons and obvious positions that most people would instantly jump to when they think of areas of improvement. Such areas include the cornerback position, which is a position that a lot of Lions fans are talking about. They want to see an improvement in that area. Another area that could stand to be improved is the defensive end edge rushing unit opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Again, a lot of Lions fans want to see another edge rusher, another pass rusher opposite of Hutchinson to bring a consistent dual threat to both edges. Another area is the interior offensive line group, specifically talking about the guards, because we don't know what's going on with Jonah Jackson. We don't know what's going to happen with Graham Glasgow. So a lot of Lions fans are concerned about that particular group. And then another area that's not getting talked about nearly as much, but I think is a huge area of concern, is one that I talked about in a previous episode. I'll put the link to that back up at the top. And that is the kicking position. We need to get a much more consistent kicker. And that is why in my episode, I specifically referred to a kicker out of Stanford called Joshua Carty. Highly encourage all to watch that episode to get more specifics on that. But anyway, when we take a look at all those positions, those are all positions that, in my opinion, could stand improvement, and it's quite plainly obvious why they could stand to get improved. But here's the last thing that Lions fans and the NFL knows about Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes, when he drafts, he always drafts the best player, one, regardless of talent and perspective to the team's talent they have at a position, and regardless of what people may or may not think. Why am I specifically referring to this? Well, let me just put it out there. when it comes to certain players, you want them because they're great football players. Not necessarily because, hey, you know what? It's a position on the team that's weak or we need to add more to. They're just a great football player and they'd be a great fit for the team. And in my honest opinion, this player that we're about to talk about would be a great addition for the Detroit Lions because I believe he is an awesome football player. And that is wide receiver Brendan Rice out of USC. Now, I'm going to just say this. I know there are some people who are going to probably pop their eyebrows up at me and be like, wait a minute, David, why in the literal hell are we talking about a wide receiver here? Why are we talking about Brendan Rice? Don't we already have enough good wide receivers? First and foremost, let me understand this and let me say this. You can never, ever have too many wide receivers, just like you can never, ever have too many cornerbacks or linemen. They are always getting injured, and it's always good to have an insurance policy. But those are not the reason. That's not the reason why I'm talking about Brendan Rice. The reason I'm talking about Brendan Rice is both specific and also non-specific. Here are the specific reasons why I'm going to talk about Brendan Rice, so allow me to elaborate. The two specific reasons are, one, I think that Brendan Rice is a more than suitable replacement for Josh Reynolds. That's the number one specific. The number two specific is that I believe Josh Reynolds is going to cost the Lions more money than what it would take to freaking draft Brendan Rice, and he's going to be a lot younger. So that's specific number two. Then we start looking at things that are not necessarily as specific, but they have a lot of merit in my opinion. One, the fact that Brendan Rice is from USC. I'll elaborate on that in a little bit. But also number four, there's the pedigree. For those that know exactly what I'm talking about, good for you. For those that don't know, you're about to find out in a little bit. So let's get into that. Let's specifically take a look at all the reasons that I'm talking about here. So, reason number one, a replacement for Josh Reynolds. I'm going to say this right now. For some Lions fans, the Josh Reynolds conversation is a little bit of a touchy subject. It's a little bit of a controversial subject because there are some people that might say replacing Josh Reynolds makes a lot of sense. And then there are others that might say, no, this is a knee-jerk reaction. We need to slow down. We need to cool off. We need to let better heads prevail here. Let's understand that both sides have merit, in my opinion. The reason why it might be a knee-jerk reaction is because let's take a look at freaking Josh Reynolds' stats. His stats from 2023 were the second best of his career. He had a great year with the Detroit Lions in relation to the rest of the time that he's been in the NFL. So obviously, Josh Reynolds can still produce for the Detroit Lions in this offense. And obviously we know that Jared Goff and Josh Reynolds have a great chemistry. They have great communication between one another. So that right there gives Josh Reynolds a lot of, I would say, strength to potentially coming back. Because he knows the offense, he knows Goff, he knows his tendencies. So that right there, in my honest opinion, is why it would be a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, because it's like, listen, he had a great season overall, and if you go to the playoffs, he had a really great year. He just had some really bad moments in a really crucial game for the Detroit Lions. So that's why it could be considered a knee-jerk reaction for some people to say, hey, let's replace Josh Reynolds. Now, the opposite side of that coin on why this would make sense is because you have to understand this. Brad Holmes has said it multiple times before. He's always looking for ways to improve the roster. And when you take a look at this, the Lions have to consider all possible avenues to expand the talent and competition that's on the roster. And the reason why I'm saying in regards to this is that, in my honest opinion, Brendan Rice can do virtually the exact same thing that Josh Reynolds can do for this offense, but he has an added threat bonus to it that Josh Reynolds does not have. Brendan Rice is a bit of a burner. Again, you watch some of the highlights that I'm about to put up on this, that I'm about to put up on the screen. Take a look at what Brendan Rice is doing in these highlights. He's literally going deep. He has a burn threat ability because every single one of the highlights that I'm showing while I'm talking, they all show that he has the ability to get behind the defense and he has the ability to take the ball to the house for a long gain. And that right there is something that we have not seen out of Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds can pick up yards and he is a yak machine, but he's not a guy that is considered a burn threat that can go the distance or can get a ball 40 yards down the field and then take it into the end zone. That is something that Rice has. And at the same time, Rice has all the other tangibles that Josh Reynolds can do. He can go over the middle just like Josh Reynolds. He has the ability to take those screens. He has the ability to do what Josh Reynolds can already do, but he has added threat bonuses as well, which to me is like, okay, you're elevating the competition. You're elevating the talent within that wide receiver core, because when you keep adding more talent, it breeds better competition, which breeds better results on the field. So for me, when you think about it, adding Brendan Rice is only going to make that wide receiver core even better, which is going to make the offense even better. So that's the reason why I think that Brendan Rice could be a very good replacement for Josh Reynolds. So that's point number one. And then on top of that, you have to think about this. Josh Reynolds and Brendan Rice, they're virtually the same size. They're both listed at 6'3", but Rice is actually 10 pounds heavier, which means he's less prone to get injured, because one of the things we know about Josh Reynolds is that he's dealt with nagging injuries throughout the season, still managed to play through them, but they're nagging injuries. It's like, listen, I want a guy that I don't have to worry about is going to deal with injuries throughout the course of the year. So that's number one. Number two, cheaper and younger than Josh Reynolds. Let's understand something here. The cheaper factor is due to what is going to happen when Brendan Rice gets drafted. If you go to either PFN or you go to PFF, Brendan Rice is considered a late second round pick to a third round draft pick. It just kind of depends on where he's getting drafted. Now, I decided to be like, okay, let's give this guy the widest possible range of when it comes to getting drafted. Let's just say, hypothetically, Brendan Rice gets drafted with the very first pick in the second round. If he were to get drafted with the very first pick in the second round, he would make about $9.9 million over the course of his 4-year contract with whatever team he was getting drafted to. If he was to get drafted at the end of the second round, it would be $6.3 million. So I was like, okay, from the beginning of the second round to the end of the second round, you're talking about a range of $9.9 to $6.3 million spread over a 4-year period. Now, let's just say hypothetically that Rice gets drafted in the third round. In my honest opinion, he's going to get drafted anywhere between the beginning of the third round to about where the Lions are getting drafted, because in the PFN mock draft simulator, also in the PFF mock draft simulator, he's typically going about that 70-75 pick range. So I was like, okay, let's just say he gets drafted anywhere between the first pick of the third round to where the Lions are picking. That's about $6 million to $5.9 million over 4 years. If you think about that, that means that per year, Brendan Rice would be either making anywhere from $2.5 million per year or about $1.475 million per year. That right there is a very doable contract for a wide receiver. What was Josh Reynolds' last contract with the Lions? It was a 2-year, $6 million deal. Not at all by any means of this, not by any stretch of the imagination, a massive contract. But again, that's $3 million per year, and there was, I think about half of that was in terms of guaranteed money. So what you're talking about is you would be saving money, even if it is a little bit of money, in terms of going from Josh Reynolds to Brendan Rice. But that's not the big thing for me in terms of Josh Reynolds versus Brendan Rice in terms of cost. The cost factor is the fact that Josh Reynolds is 29 years old. He's right there at the cusp of potentially starting to slow down. Just like running backs, wide receivers start slowing down exponentially once they hit that 30 barrier. Once they hit the age of 30, they start to slow down both physically and also in their ability to start being physically as, what's the word I'm looking for? Deadly on the field as far as, hey, getting wide open, being threats in the passing game. Whereas with Brendan Rice, he's 8 years younger. So you would not only get a cheaper version of Josh Reynolds, but you get a much better physically able version of Josh Reynolds. So that right there is another reason why I think this would make a lot of sense for the Lions. Now, the third reason I talked about, the USC connection. Let's understand something here. This one is a fairly self-explanatory, straightforward explanation. Amon-Ra St. Brown came from USC, and on top of that, Jared Goff is from the California area as well. I'm just going to say this, why not go back to the same well? Why not go back to USC, go back to California, that area, for a third time and get another player that works really well out of that? Because you have to think about it here, just to keep the connection with the USC Trojans. The Trojans have had a knack of producing some pretty damn good wide receivers over their time. Think about this. The Trojans have produced the likes of Lynn Swann, Johnny Morton, Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously. They also produced Michael Pittman Jr., who's currently playing, and they produced Keyshawn Johnson. Two of those guys that I just mentioned, Morton and St. Brown, they played for the Lions. And St. Brown is definitely better than Morton, but Morton was a pretty good wide receiver for the Lions for a period of time. My whole point is this. We already have seen what Amon-Ra St. Brown has done out of USC. Why not go with Brendan Rice and give him a shot as well? At that point, in my honest opinion, you have the clear connection to California and USC, which means, okay, you could potentially work that angle in terms of, connection, camaraderie, and all that other happy nonsense. I'm just simply saying that is a possibility. That is a reason why the Lions might go with that, because sometimes there are teams that like to go with schools where they have felt comfortable in the past. And let's understand something here. Amon-Ra St. Brown is definitely a good reason to go back to USC as far as drafting another wide receiver. Just saying. Now, the final reason I could think of was pedigree. Let's just be honest here. For anybody that does not know, Brendan Rice is the son of Hall of Fame legend wide receiver Jerry Rice. Let's just understand something here. If Brendan Rice could be half of the wide receiver that his father was, that right there still makes it an absolute just steal of a pick. Jerry Rice is the best wide receiver that has ever played the game. I understand Megatron, but I'm sorry. There's a reason why Jerry Rice is the gold standard when it comes to wide receivers. But just think about this for a second, folks. Megatron last year, when the whole thing with Jameson Williams was going on, said he was going to mentor Jameson Williams. Just think about this for a minute. Could you imagine having Jerry Rice and Megatron at Allen Park mentoring the wide receivers that we have? Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brendan Rice, Khalif Raymond, Jameson Williams. Dude, it would be absolutely awesome. It is just a salivating thought to have, to say, oh my Lord, the two best wide receivers that have ever played the game are at the Lions facility helping out the wide receivers. That right there is an unbelievable thought to have. And then think about this. Imagine, if you will, freaking Jerry Rice, Megatron, and Barry Sanders all on the field at the exact same time. Dude! Like, that would be something to behold. Three of the best players that have ever played in the NFL, all potentially on the same field, just talking about the good old days and potentially helping out with the Lions. Like, that right there is just awesome. I know that is a bit of a pipe dream. I know that is a little bit far-fetched and out there. But hey, let a guy dream. I'm just simply saying, when you take a look at the proposal I'm talking about here, why the hell would you not go after a player like Brendan Rice? He clearly has the ability to play. He has the ability to add yet another weapon to this Lions offense. And he has the ability to upgrade from what we already currently have in Josh Reynolds. And again, the whole point of the Lions at this point is trying to upgrade, is trying to get better in certain areas. So why not find a guy that's younger, is going to be cheaper than the guy we currently have, and in my opinion has a much more wider and much better arsenal of weapons that he can add to the Detroit Lions. That's just my personal perspective, folks. And again, freaking Brendan Rice is a game changer. He is a guy that literally can make plays, and that is what this Lions offense needs more of, playmakers. We already have a lot, but there's never ever a shortage to have another one. So that's my point. That's my proposal with today's episode. Having said all that, I think I've done a pretty good idea talking about the Lions potentially getting this guy. So having said that, I just want to say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. Also encourage you all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past, you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and now had a chance to do so, again, please subscribe. It helps out my channel, and I'm ever so thankful for every subscription that I can get my hands on. But also, please, after you subscribe, make sure you turn on that bell notification icon as well, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, subscription numbers are always going up, but we want to make sure you turn on that bell notification icon, so that way you never miss any more content as soon as I push it out. To also help in this endeavor, please, please, please share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. The more we share it, the better this channel spreads, the better the channel grows. And again, I'm thankful for every share as well as every subscription that I can get my hands on. And with that being said, I just want to say to everybody, thank you all for watching the content that did watch it. Again, thank you all for everything that you do. I hope you all enjoyed the show immensely. And with that being said, I also hope to have gained some subscribers. Welcome to the MCM family if you just became a new subscriber. If you still haven't decided to subscribe just yet, hopefully I'll gain you on the next go around. But until that time, I just want to say to everybody, God bless, and until the next time we meet, I'll see y'all in the next episode.